Recently, I heard a quote from Ángel Real that really stuck with me. The quote was, "There's nothing pre-established, nothing fixed. Designing routines is an art." Thinking about that, I realized something. Over the years, I've designed the vast majority of the 500 free routines available in Calisthenics app. I also created all 40 training programs, each with 3 to 6 phases, and every phase with its weekly routines. Then there are the 24 adaptive Evo routines and the 19-21-day challenge, each with 3 to 4 routines per day, covering different difficulty levels and equipment setups. That adds up to around 2,200 routines created just for Calisthenics app. And on top of that, there are all the routines I've made for myself, for people I've trained both in person and online, plus the ones I've made for my tutorials and my YouTube and Instagram videos. So after going through all of that, I'd say yes. I agree that designing routines is definitely an art, a very complex one, full of nuance. And in this video, I want to share everything I can about it. That way, I can give you a glimpse of what I've learned through all that experience, and hopefully it will be helpful for anyone who can make use of it. But first, just a quick reminder that you can support me as a content creator by using my code JERAI on Procis to get 10% off your orders, and you can get supplements, training equipment, and healthy food. Plus, you'll get free gifts based on your order size and earn points you can redeem for even more gifts. Thank you for your support. To properly explain the details of how to build a routine, let's start by looking at the most common case, creating a personalized routine for a specific person. The first thing we need to consider when creating a routine is, what do we want to achieve with it? What's the goal? It could be a routine to train planche, to work on back and biceps, to do some cardio, or just to stay in shape with some basic exercises. But you need to know the goal before taking any further step. And obviously, this has to align with what the person wants. Interestingly, that's not always as straightforward as it sounds. A lot of people want to train calisthenics but haven't taken the time to really think about their goals, or they don't know how to express them clearly. That's why it can be important to have a good, long talk with the person first. Even then, sometimes you don't reach a clear conclusion, or they might say they want everything at once. In those cases, a good strategy is to start with general routines focused on basic movements, and over time, the person will usually get a better idea of what they actually want. The next step is understanding the person's objective conditions, like do they have any injuries or limitations that stop them from doing certain exercises, what's their current level or capacity for different movements, do they know how to perform exercises with proper technique, how much time do they have to train, do they have access to equipment or are they training at home with no gear. With all that information, you can already start forming an idea of the kind of routine you are going to design. But this is where the more artistic side of routine design begins, the subjective part. For example, even if someone is able to do all kinds of pull-ups, prone grip, supine grip, neutral grip, archer, explosive, keeping, there might be one variation they absolutely love and another one they can't stand. Even if someone has 4 free hours every day to train, they might prefer a short 20-minute session because they enjoy it more and want time for other hobbies. And the list goes on and on. The subjective side is about identifying the person's preferences and tastes so the routine has what we call adherence, meaning they are more likely to stick with it long term. This is also where intuition comes into play. Some people, if they find the first routine really hard and it leaves them sore for days, won't feel like coming back for the next session. Others, if it is too easy and doesn't challenge them, get bored and quit. By talking to them and paying attention to those little cues, you can usually figure out which type they are. Now we get to the part that requires the most knowledge, experience and skill from the person designing the routine. And that's what really makes it feel like an art. Even though we have already established some boundaries based on objective and subjective factors, we still have lots of choices. We need to pick the right exercises for the goal from all the possible options, You need to pick the right exercises for the goal from all the possible options, the ones that are going to give the best results. Then you need to choose the right intensity, numbers of sets and reps, what order to place them in, Then you need to choose the right intensity, number of sets and reps, what order to place them in, how long the routine will last, what type of structure it will follow, and so on. There's even a bit of creative work involved in making sure the whole routine has a clear structure and purpose, so that just by glancing at it, you can understand what it's trying to achieve. That's much better than looking at a random bunch of exercises thrown together with no logic. That, to me, is where part of the magic lies. Being able to design a routine that makes sense, feels cohesive, it's effective and enjoyable. And enjoyment is such an important part of calisthenics as a sport, actually liking your training. To make that happen, you need a mix of knowledge, experience, creativity and instinct. It's not easy to come by, but I hope this video helps you get there. Let's move on to another kind of routine design, when you are not creating something for one specific person, but for a general audience or group of people. In this case, the design becomes even more intuitive and, honestly, a bit predictive. You try to group the people doing the routine into a certain category and make it effective for the majority of them. For example, in my case, sometimes I explain a training concept in a YouTube video and then I need to create a routine that applies that concept for beginners, intermediates and advanced athletes. Or I might design a routine for the app targeting a specific goal and then build different versions of each difficulty level. A funny thing happened to me in my early days of creating calisthenics content. Back then, my idea of what a beginner was totally biased by my own experience and the people I trained with in the park. See, when I started training, I was a skinny guy who had always done some kind of sport, so I could do a few pull-ups from day one. I didn't have to spend weeks just to get one. Same with the people I trained with. Most were just like me, lean, athletic guys with a bit of sports background, so everyone could at least do a few pull-ups. That led me to design beginner routines for the internet that assumed you could already do pull-ups, dips and push-ups without much trouble. Maybe you couldn't do a muscle up yet, but you weren't far off. So of course I got tons of comments like "this isn't for beginners" or "I'm a beginner and I can't do this routine." Over time I realized that a lot of people starting calisthenics can't even do one pull-up, and some can't even do a push-up, so I had to adjust my idea of what a beginner really is. There are also times when you design a routine for a group not based on their level but on shared characteristics. Take the tucked plunge for example. It's one of the easier plunge progressions, but it's still not something your average beginner can do. It takes strength and technique. But if you make a YouTube video about plunge training and include a beginner routine, it'll probably still include the tucked plunge. Why? Because within the broader group of people who train, beginners can't do it. But within the more specific group of people who are interested in training for plunge, the general level is higher, and even the least advanced among them can probably hold a tucked plunge for a few seconds. So, as you can see, when designing for a group, you still have to apply everything we have talked about, but now you are adapting to the general traits of the group. The more you know about that group, the better you can tailor the routine. That's why, over the years, I've always tried to set aside time every day to read your messages and reply as much as I can on Instagram. Besides connecting more with you all, it helps me stay in tune with your goals, your level, the challenge you are facing and everything else. Now let's talk about another key element, how routines evolve. A big part of making a routine effective over time is how it evolves. No matter how well designed it is, if someone does the same thing over and over again, eventually their body adapts. The routine stops being effective because it no longer challenges them. So the next level of routine design is planning how it will progress over time. The most common way is through a training program, like the ones we offer in Calisthenics. These programs have multiple phases in which you repeat each routine for a set period of time and then move to the next phase, where the routine increases in intensity and adjusts to your improved capacity. If you are coaching a person or group directly with ongoing support, you can adjust things more fluidly, changing reps, adding harder exercises, and so on. Another approach is what we initially called smart progress and now we call Evo routines in Calisthenics. These are adaptive routines that evolve as you go, based on the feedback you give during the workout. The current versions were designed a few years ago, and I'm really excited to redesign, restructure, and improve them in the coming months. So stay tuned because the adaptive Evo routines are going to be awesome. However you go about it, the key is that routines should evolve over time, depending on how the person or people using them are progressing. One of the biggest training mistakes is sticking to the exact same routine for months on end, so keep that in mind. In conclusion, designing a good routine means taking a lot of different factors into account. It requires technical knowledge, understanding the person or group it's for, experience, and even a bit of intuition and creativity. That's why some of us see it as an art or even a form of craftsmanship. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe, follow me on Instagram @GerayAlonso and use my code GERAY on Process. Thank you so much for the support and see you in the next video.